it starts to get closer very slowly until it's literally right directly above us.
Welcome back to another episode of Strange Conspiracies. I'm your host, Cody. Tonight's episode is one that's going to stick with you for a long time after the conversation ends. The guest we have on is going to share a series of experiences that blur the line between folklore, paranormal, and something far more personal. This is part 2, where we have Cindy on from last week, sharing more of her story. We're going to hear from her in her encounter with Dogman, strange UFO sightings near her home on more than one occasion, and something more personal in her family history that may tie all this together. Tonight we're going to unpack it all. We'll let you decide. This is Strange Conspiracies.
Thank you for having me again, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share so much. I know it's a lot, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
No problem. So, after everything had happened previously with my faith being so profound and everything, some years passed where I was still very devoted to my faith, but at one point I had left my home to go to a place called Job Corps, and this place is filled with a lot of people who are just seeking to get an education where school hadn't worked for them before, and it had incentives and stuff. And this place that I went to, it was in Grafton, Massachusetts. And so you get roomed with a few different people. I had 4 roommates, and 3 of them were Wiccans. And I started off, when I first got there, I was very much still reading, my Bible and trying to keep my faith and, doing what I thought was the discipleship of trying to get other people, interested in God. And that was not successful where I was. Instead, I started to get, I think that I wasn't brought up in the church that I went to. I wasn't brought up to really have I didn't have the right guidance and protection when I went to a place where I was roomed with 3 Wiccans who were actively practicing dark arts and things of that sort. So at some point I leave that place, and I'm already kind of a wreck. I'm a lost soul, so to speak. So I start to make friends that are alike, a lot of people who practiced in the same things. And I declared myself as not into magic or anything like that. And I would always tell people I'm Christian, but I would participate in things like Ouija boards, or going to haunted location to go ghost hunting, or random games where you would almost start a seance with candles, and many, many, many mistakes. And so errors in my life. But I ended up going to one particular place it's a town next to Ayer, and I think it's called Devon's. There's a military base that's abandoned there now. And so we went to that place first to see if there was any activity, but we couldn't get in because it was totally blocked off. And we ended up going to a cemetery that was close by. So when we go to the cemetery, it's a place that's completely enshrouded by forest. It's a very small cemetery. It's perimetered by the stone walls that you see all over Massachusetts and New England. It's kind of stacked up stones that just make a wall, and it would run along all the way to the back, around, and then back to the beginning, making a perfect square. And we entered the cemetery, and immediately what I wanted to do was, with my ghost hunting, I would record things and I would ask questions. And so with my flashlight, I just walked off away from my group of friends, and I made it to the end of the cemetery towards the right corner. I was just guided over there. Like I didn't have a particular interest. Like I just always allowed myself to be guided in some ways, which was another form of practice that I probably shouldn't have done. It got me into a bit of trouble. But so I make it to the end of the cemetery, and um, I'm asking questions as I'm getting closer and closer to the end of like this headstone. And when I make it kind of almost to the very end of the wall of that, where the woods would begin, like it's the walls and then just trees all around, I hear a growl. And so it was so rumbly and low that I wasn't sure what I heard. I just knew that I felt it in my stomach, like my rib cage, my chest, and my stomach felt it inside, like a rumble. And I heard it a little bit. So I wasn't completely sure. And my friends were off in the distance making a lot of noise and stuff. So I kind of was like, I need to make sure that I heard this right. But I was startled. So I start to walk backwards, still looking in that direction very slowly. I take about 3 steps when I hear it again, but this time it was much louder. And there I took a couple steps more, and I turned quickly away and like sped walked to the group of people. And when I made it over to them, everybody kind of in unison had agreed to leave. Like at that point, they were like, like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Like we can get going, blah, blah, blah. And we made our way over to 2 cars. It was about 3 people in one car, maybe 4 people in another. It could have been 6 to 7 people that were all like, all of us included were the group of people. So everybody's heading to the cars. And when we leave the cemetery, we're on this road that's narrow, and the cars are parked kind of like just on grass on the side of the road. And we cross the street. And I always mention this, like it's kind of important to me that it was across the street. So where I had heard the growl was all the way down on the other side of the cemetery at the back end. And we left the cemetery and walked across the street. And that's where, when I'm standing in front of the car with my group of people, and the other group is kind of standing around too, but we're kind of just separated, just talking amongst each other. And that's where I notice very bright red orbs. And it was kind of like lights, like it was just very red, glowy balls. And so I'm looking at them and I don't know, I'm so perplexed. I don't know what I'm looking at. And as I'm staring deeply into these red shining balls, and I'm kind of like just staring for a while. And I remember thinking, what are those? Like I kept thinking, are they shiners? Like, what am I looking at inside of the woods? Why are they so bright red? And I had no idea. I'm probably 18, 17 at the time. And that's where I'm looking at them, and I think at that point I realized they were eyes, because I went, what is that? And as soon as I said that, my friends turned. And as they were turning to look, this thing was turning also. So one of the eyes got blocked, like the red glowing eyes, one of them gets blocked by its face. And I'm only seeing one as it turns, and that's where I see this like snout, like the mouth of a dog. And that I see, and it's like everything came into like the big picture was finally like revealed. As it was turning, I could see the ears, I could see the mouth. And I sometimes wonder if it was because the eyes were so bright that I was just staring into them. And until he was turning, that's where like everything else was kind of illuminated. Or I just could notice it better because I was looking into the darkness for so long. So what I saw was a dog head on a man's body that was very large, extremely black. Like it was darker than like the surrounding woods. It was darker than the trees beside it. Like it was darker than night. And as it's turning, I could literally see like its shoulder turn, and it was very big. And his head was like shaped like his neck was like that from his head. Like, so you have like what I always say is kind of like the Anubis look. It's like you have a dog face head, And then you have the neck that kind of goes out like this over shouldered like muscles and arms. And it was turning. I did not get to see very well what the hands looked like, but from my mind's point of view, I thought it was hands, but I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if there were claws. I could only tell that it was like not paws. And I could see the side profile of him, and every single part of the body looked like it had muscle. Like that's all. Every single part of the body looked like it had muscle, like literally down to the glutes, like everything. But it just was almost like shaggy hair on it. Like literally, like if you're looking at like dog's hair on a body, but it was a person. And it starts to walk. It literally turns so slow too. That's one of the things that I was shocked by, that this thing was not bothered by it, like not in a way that was bothered, like, oh, they're annoying. I mean, it was not afraid of a group of people having seen it. It just very slowly turned and went like that and just kept walking away. And I literally saw it go off and I could not see it anymore in the dark. Like, I didn't know where it was. And that's what's scary about it. But as we're seeing this, they also were like, what is that? What was that red? What? And so they saw the eye too. And we all ran in the cars. Everybody's yelling, like, let's go to McDonald's, like, run, whatever. And we get in the cars. Everybody peels it out of there. And we meet at a McDonald's. And everybody's just saying, like, it was a demon. Like, it was a demon. It was some kind of demon. And we all just thought, back then, nobody talked about Dogman. Nobody ever talked about werewolves, or you didn't think that stuff was real. So immediately you just thought it was this like ancient demonic being that you saw that was supposed to be spiritual. But now, as an adult, I know that these things are real and they're more tangible than what we thought back then. But yeah, that's the Dogman story. And I believe that had a lot to do with us going to the cemetery and doing the things we were doing. I have heard that they frequent cemeteries and people are, they have a lot of encounters with them there. And what else? They, it almost seems like they guard those places. And I think that for me, it wasn't like a situation where, oh, it was the kind of person you are, you got to see one because, you've seen so many things. And I think this was just a very rare occurrence where I was at the right place or wrong place at the wrong time. And I got to see one, because I've never seen one again since. I have heard some really strange sounds in the area here that made me believe that they could be around. I don't think they stay in any one place for long. Otherwise, people would be frequenting. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk tonight. Frequenting them more often. But yeah, so that was one of those like dark. I remember feeling left feeling that night when I went to bed, very like an empty shell inside. Like I thought about the eyes. And I felt like this empty shell, and I was terrified because I thought it was this ancient demonic thing of opening my eyes and seeing it in my room, somewhere in my room in the dark. But it never happened. Thank God. I never got to see it again. And then thereafter, I kind of had a lot of, my life's been a very long journey, a lot of bumps in the road. And later on, I ended up going to a DV shelter with my son for unfortunate circumstances, or because of unfortunate circumstances. And when I was there, this place is about 15 minutes away from me. It's in the city of Worcester, but in a wooded area that's on the border of this town. So you would probably drive 5 minutes and you're in this town, like right near me. But yeah, so it's 15 minutes away from here, just about 15, 14 minutes, whatever. Those details don't even matter. It's close by. And I was outside with one of the girls from the shelter one night, and we were just smoking a cigarette, and we're looking up at the sky and the moon and whatever, and we are just talking about life things. And I believe it had to have been around 9 o'clock, because we always would put the babies down and our kids down, and then we would take the monitors and we would step outside for a few minutes. And I'm outside with the baby monitor, and we're just hanging out talking, and we're looking at the sky, when all of a sudden, from where the trees are, I start to see what looks like lights. And it turns out these lights revealed like a bigger craft. What I was seeing was the lights coming from what looked like windows on a craft that was circling, as if it was kind of coming down to land, like that, like literally like circling like that. And it was coming down behind a Catholic school that there was there. There's a big field back there. And I'm directly across the street from the Catholic school, the private school. And behind this place, it's huge. This school's field is huge. They have, I guess they do a lot of sports and whatnot, and they have a really big field, and surrounding that field is nothing but woods. So I'm seeing this thing go down, and it's spiraling down, and I'm seeing that it has different colored lights on it. I wish I could draw this. So the shape of the craft was like that kind of, and in the middle was like rows of what looked like windows, and they all kind of had like the windows were like this with like lines, and they had different colors in them. And so when I tell you, it literally looked like something you would see in a movie. It looked like something, I'm like, the movies are literally getting their ideas from real crafts, because this thing was real. This thing was exactly like a movie, and it was real. And I know that the movies they're not making up out of their minds. Like, they're just not coming up with these ideas. Somebody saw these things, and because they saw it, they're putting it and incorporating it into films. Because this thing that I saw was exactly from like what a film would show. It was spinning like it would in a film. It was the lights were around it, like different colors, and it was so far away that I could not see if there was anybody in there. Like, I could not tell. If you told me, in 5 years they released like this was an American craft that they were just trying, you could fool me. Like, I could not see if it was aliens in there. I don't know if it was an empty craft. I don't know if we have that. Like, I have no idea what this was. But I did see a craft. It was like a metallic looking craft with lights all around it, and it was spinning, going down, landing. And once it hit the trees, and this was a really long account, like, we were looking at this thing for so long, it was going across the sky and then heading down. And as it was heading down, that's where, like, I could tell me and her were both going, like, what is that? What is that? Like, what am I looking at right now? Like, we were panicking. And she was really, really scared, and she immediately wanted to run inside. And I'm like, dude, wait. And I was just telling her, like, just wait a second, because as soon as it hit the trees, she was trying to book it. And I wanted to see, like, if it landed, if there was any smoke, if it, like, anything happened. But it goes down behind the trees, and we see and hear nothing else. So she's terrified. We go inside. I'm scared. I was spooked. But she was so scared that I went after her, and I was following her to her room. And I said, hold on, can we talk about this? Like, did you see what I just saw? And she was like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm really sorry. And she just closed the door in my face. And that sucked, because you have an experience like this and you want to talk about it to no end. And the person who saw it with you is so scared she didn't want to talk about it at all. So that was my flying saucer thing. And I don't want to claim that it's out of like this world. I don't know what I saw. I just know that it was a metallic flying craft that was spinning in orbit, and it had lights on it. Um, it was even going slow. Like, this wasn't, it's crazy to me that no one else, I don't know if anybody else reported it or anything. I didn't report it. I tried talking about it with her and she wouldn't. And I just felt like I was going to sound like a crazy person, and I left it alone. And that happened about 10, maybe 10 to 12 years ago. No, 12. He's 2. So 10 years ago. That happened about 10 years ago. And I just kind of left it in like in a box. Like, all of my other things that have happened to me, I just put it in a box. I didn't want to talk about it with anybody because every time I told people things, I was either like ignored or I was looked at like I was crazy. And so it turned into another one of those things where it was just something that I would like stash away. And I never talked about much about again. And then I think I want to be sure that I'm not skipping over anything before I tell you about me moving here. Some time passes. It's been many years. It's about four years or so. Like 4 years later, I moved to Millbury, Massachusetts. And this is where I am currently, Millbury, Mass. And Millbury, Massachusetts is one of those towns that is very quiet. 7 o'clock, like a lot of stuff is closed already downtown. People just really, it's one of those really quiet towns where a lot of suburbia, but it's very wooded. It's on the line of where I live is on the line of Sutton and like 146. So that's heading to Rhode Island. Pretty woodsy, a lot of swamp areas too. There have been quite a few encounters of different cryptids and stuff around here also. But when I moved here, it was completely unbeknownst to me. And I have about a whole year of everything just being silent. There's nothing too crazy going on. I don't have any, I don't have any encounters with anything, and everything seems really peaceful. I have, for the first time in my life, have a home of my own, and I'm super happy, and everything seems really peaceful, and I'm having, my faith is returning with God. And I actually, at that time, when I moved here, I had just started my very strong relationship with God. It had just begun. I just started reading my Bible again. I had just started worshiping. Everything just it was like this culmination of just my faith, and weird things starting to happen. When I moved here, like I said, I had about a year of peace and quiet. And one of the first things that happened were I'm on the phone outside, and I'm pretty sure it was around the end of summer, because the sun didn't set until almost like 9 o'clock at night or something. And I remember thinking that it was going to be dusk soon because the sky was starting to change to that kind of like more bluish purpley color, and the sun setting and whatnot. And I'm on the phone with my nephew, and at the end of my backyard, where the wood line is, I notice above the trees something is just not hanging. Something's floating up there. And it is like, I should have brought a notebook so I could draw it. But it was above the tree line. There's just something floating, and it's a green blue light that's straight, almost like if you've seen those tic-tac videos or something, like just a bar, but it's all light. It was literally a light, and it was a bar, and it was floating above the tree line. So I'm staring at this thing, but I don't even kind of notice it. I'm just on the phone, and I look over, and I'm not even paying attention to this thing because I'm so engrossed in the conversation with my nephew. I had just moved here like a year ago, and what I do a lot, because I'm not close to my family members, I'm like 45 minutes to an hour and a half from different family and friends. So I always talk on the phone with them at the end of the day. And that's really how I keep in touch with everybody, if I'm not visiting them. And I'm so engrossed in this conversation, and I'm seeing this light thing up there. And it takes me a couple of glances, and when I finally notice that it's not moving, it's just a greenish blue light up there that's like a bar. I go, wait a minute, this isn't normal. So I tell my nephew, I go, listen, I'm seeing something really bizarre. I need to call you back. I literally said that. I'm seeing something bizarre. I got to call you back. And I hang up. And I go in and I get my husband, I say, who was my fiance at the time, and I said, hey, you need to come out here and see this. Something really strange is in the sky. And he comes out and he's like, what now? Because I always noticed like these lights I always saw lights and orbs and things in the sky, and I would tell him about it, but he would never get to see them. So I have him come out, and as soon as he comes out, like he's walking down the hall to come outside, and this thing starts zooming away super fast. And he's like, what's that? And he was like, is it a drone? And I was like, no way. And he starts looking at it, and he goes, that's really weird. And he was like, and we stood there noticing that it's not making a sound. It's moving really fast, and it's leaving the orbit. And the weird thing about this bar thing is that it switched to a ball. So this thing was no longer like a straight line. Now it's just like a ball like that. And somehow it shifted, it morphed. I don't know what it did, but it's leaving our area. And it from my house, we're really high elevation. We're here in Millbury, we're at like 500 above sea level in comparison to like, other towns where they're like literally 100 or something above sea level, but we're on hills and stuff. So I'm watching this thing leave, and it goes so far away so fast. And he is like, that was weird. And he starts turning around. I'm like, wait, I know it's coming back. It's coming back. I can feel it. I don't know how, but it's coming back. Give me just one more minute, please. And he was like, fine, 1 minute. Because he's just sick of me at this point. Because I'm always so, I see so many things, and I've told him about so many things I've experienced, and he's just like, okay. He used to not pay me any mind. Now he does. But this thing starts coming back, and it's two of them now. So two of them are headed back over, and he was like, what the F? And I was like, I told you, I could feel it. So we don't somehow, this is the weird thing about this. Somehow I record parts of this whole thing that happened. I'm going to tell you the rest of the story in a second. But I don't remember the moments where I was recording and the moments where I would just turn off the camera and stuff was going on. I don't remember what led to what and how it happened. So I sent you the recordings of what I have, but I don't know how it matches up with what I experienced.
And there it goes. Oh.
What?
It just shut.
Babe. What is it doing?
I don't know.
Look at the light in this. Look at the light in this, what it's doing on here. Do you see that? Honestly, do you want to know what it looks like to me on the camera? Look at that. Look at the circle in the middle. It looked, for a second, I'll show you in a second the video after.
It's got a green light, a white light, a blue light.
Yep. It's staying in one spot. So I'm gonna tell you to the best of my ability, because also that night and that experience was something that left us both kind of like foggy. So I'm gonna explain everything as best as I can, but mind you, so So I'm seeing these two orbs come back. And at this point, they're changing colors, and they would go from, both of them would go from purple, blue, greens, reds, like every color. They would just start changing and morphing. And I don't know what they were doing. I have no idea what these things were. This was in 2022. So this was way before people were doing crazy things with the drones. This was like, I hadn't seen anything like this before. And so when it comes closer, what we keep waiting on is the sound of a drone. We were like, there has to be a sound. Like, why isn't there any sound? It's so quiet. And in the recordings that I sent you, you hear nothing. You hear cars go by, but you hear no sound of a drone propeller or anything like that. It's just completely silent. And so this is where like things get super creepy, but one of them starts to leave and one of them stays pretty relatively close. And we're just watching these things, kind of like, there's a building right next to my house, and we're kind of watching one of them kind of move around, like do weird things, like almost like a light show for us. It was just doing strange things with their lights. And it starts to get closer very slowly until it's literally right directly above us. And in the meantime, while it's coming closer, it starts to change. And it turns into this very bright, blinding, like ethereal light that starts like pulsating. And when it's pulsating, I had already started recording in between. So in between all of this stuff, I'm recording, putting down the phone, recording, because I want to pay attention to what's happening. I'm not the kind of person that like, I'm not always with my phone. I'm not always recording stuff. I'm not always like, even less so back then. I had a way more peaceful life. Now I'm always on my phone, but I wasn't like that. So, and I'm generally not always like that. But anyway, I start recording while it's above, but it's not directly above us yet. I'm recording while it's kind of like where I can see it up and over. So like kind of in front of us. And it starts to blink. And the blinking, it had continued to blink. And the blinking turned into this weird, this light was so bright that I was concerned that my eyes like would not be able to see right after. So I put my face down. And then I went to look back up at it, and now it's even further up, and it was directly above us. So I had turned off my phone, and I'm standing there, and I go, this is not normal. Something's going on. It was so bizarre. It was such a strange feeling that I was getting from this thing. And I get the urge to start praying. So my fiance at the time is standing directly next to me. And he's looking up, his face is completely staring up. And mind you, when we were looking at this thing and recording, I literally said, do you see what it's doing on the camera? Because to me, it looked like it was closing in and out. Like it was like a portal or something. And I said, I'm going to tell you what it looks like after, but look at it on here. I was telling him. But in person, this thing was so bright that you couldn't see around it. You couldn't see the circle. You couldn't see anything. It was just brightness. Like it was like turning on and turning off a light in darkness. And this whole encounter felt like it took forever because it was just before like night dusk. And by the time the encounter ended, it was so dark out that we were like dazed after. We just felt so strange. And as it was blinking above us, he's looking straight up. And I hadn't realized that he was kind of in a daze. I'm kind of in my own world, just thinking about what's happening above us. He hasn't said a word. And I go, in the name of Jesus, I start praying in the name of Jesus over our house, over my family. And I start saying, and you leave now. Like I command you in the name of Jesus to go away. And this thing starts blinking way harder. And when I said that, my fiance grabs my arm. He's beside me. He's not even looking at me. And he perfectly grabbed my arm and said, no. He goes, don't stop that. And I said, what? I was like, what do you mean? And I looked at him and he's just looking straight up. He's not even paying attention to me. So I was like, oh no. And I prayed more. And I wanted to turn away and leave, but something told me I couldn't leave him out there with it. And I'll explain more on that later. So I sit down. I literally, we're in front of my patio set and I sit down and I say, Jesus Christ has all authority here. I will sit comfortably. And I sat down and something told me within to not look at it. So I looked straight ahead. And when I said that, I can see the thing still pulsating. I can see the light in my backyard. I can see it's super bright. This thing was insane. But I can see past it into my woods. And one of the things I notice is that while I'm sitting there and I see this strange, like almost what looks like a mirage. I'm looking straight ahead to my backwoods, but it's almost hazy. Like I can't see perfectly through. Almost like there's something like of an illusion or something, like my eyes are crossed or like it just looks really weird in front of me. And right then when I noticed that, I hear what sounds like breathing. And I looked over at Rob and then I looked straight ahead and I was like, I just was thinking in my mind, I'm hearing breathing in front of me across the table. So at the end of the table, where I'm looking past, like into the woods, on the deck, I heard what sounded like rough breathing going, like weird, like a weird gurgly, like breathing. And I know this sounds insane, first of all. Like I know that all of this sounds really, really, really crazy. And if it hadn't happened to me and it happened to somebody else, I wouldn't believe them. I'm gonna be honest with you, like I've heard stories in the past and I feel really bad for people that I didn't believe because it sounds absolutely insane and I get it. And if somebody doesn't believe it, then I get it. I understand. But I'm hearing this breathing. And because of that breathing, I couldn't sleep those following nights, just simply because of that. Like if I hadn't heard that, I would have just chalked this all up to be some lights in the sky, UFO, we encountered something, but whatever. But I heard breathing in front of me and I saw what looks like transparency, like something you can see through. And I continue to pray. And I'm sitting there and I had said what I said about Jesus having all authority here. And I sat there and I had faith and I tried to be, I was unafraid and I was just trying to hold on to my faith. And I was worried about him beside me because he didn't believe in God at that time. And so, it happened very quickly where everything just kind of stopped. After I had said the thing about the authority in Christ, I hear the breathing, it stops, the light starts to slow down again, it starts to move away. I'm seeing my backyard almost normal, like just dark, and I'm looking at this thing literally going away. And as I'm staring at it, I had this very deep feeling that something was telling me we are going to be back. And oh my God, it was so disturbing. But I knew they would be back. And I think that's where I'll end it tonight. Because it just continues on.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that. I had just a question I was going to ask you. I was thinking of it when you were telling the story. Do you think that there's a reason that you kind of have had these experiences and seen these things?
I think that there's a very real battle between wicked and good. And I think my whole life, I have been in this place where the battle would win for wickedness or for good. I've always been at this place where like the angels of God were keeping me and trying to pull me in their direction. And then there were times where I was very heavy in dark things. And sometimes I wonder if that has anything to do spirituality wise, if that has anything to do with these beings, because um I think I had mentioned it on the show. I don't know if it was just to you personally, but about my father's side of the family having a lot of just ancestral like witch like ranking high ranking witch stuff. And my grandmother would practice in dark arts a lot. And sometimes I wonder if something was either done to me, because my mother says that when she was pregnant, my grandmother even tried to like poison her while she was pregnant with me. And by the grace of God, I was okay after, but my mom was severely sick. Um, my one of my uncles would tell me about how my grandmother, um, she would talk to this bird, and it was a wild like raven, that would come by the house all the time. And she would talk to this bird all the time. She would just tell it things and tell it to do things and whatever. It was like a messenger of hers or something. And my uncle told me that one particular, my father wanted nothing to do with this. He wanted nothing to do with the witchcraft. Like he wanted nothing to do with all of that demonic stuff. But my grandmother had told him to do something, and he said, I'm not doing SHIT, like, leave me alone already, whatever. And he's walking out of the house, going down the steps. And she literally told the bird, something about like, go after him and like do something to him. And I don't know if she said like gouge his eye. I don't even know what she said to it. But this black, super large bird flew to my dad and started attacking his face. And that was my grandmother to my father. Like she was an extremely dark person. And she never wanted me. She never wanted, I don't, it's funny because I think about the times where I've been so um, unwanted in my life, devastated in my life, abused in my life. And then I think about all the times that God has made me feel so wanted, so taken care of, so protected. And so to me, it's almost like the devil has attempted to do a lot, and never is he successful. It's just like, it's almost like a running joke at this point for me, because I'm like, what else? Like, what else is going to come at me? And all of these, also, one of the things somebody brought up to me one time, there's cracks in people. And when there's like these very deep wounds in people, these spiritual things, like these dark beings can kind of seek people out like this, like that are like this. And I've thought about it, and I heard recently somebody said, when they have seen you, the rest of them know you somehow. So you get to see more of them. Like you're see, if you see a Bigfoot, you might see a Dogman. If you see, if you've had spiritual warfare, you might see UFO, or you know what I mean? It's just kind of like this connection between this like other realm that you open up. Like this, just like you opened up the door to this other realm, and now it's difficult to shut. So sometimes I think it has something to do with that. I don't know if it has to do with my grandparent, like my grandmother and her mother and all of those other people, but I do know that there are very dark and long ties that relate to that. And there's more that we can talk about later on in terms of like the attacks my own father has had and stuff. But that was kind of the gist of tonight with the whole UFO, the saucer. And I want to lead into later on, talk about some of what I think the UFO were really kind of bringing into this area. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that tonight. And I think that it really is a testimony, like you said, of good versus evil. And I feel like the veil is thinning more and more. And so I appreciate you, and I look forward to the next episode with you.
Thank
To finish
you.
out sharing your story with us.
And that's where we'll leave tonight's story. Encounters with something in the woods that shouldn't exist. Strange lights moving across the sky with no explanation. And a family history tied to practices that many people still fear to talk about. Whether you believe these experiences are paranormal, something extraterrestrial, or simply things we don't yet understand, stories like this remind us that the world is full of mysteries. And sometimes the most chilling stories aren't the ones we read in books. They're the ones told by people who lived through them. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, make sure to subscribe, share the show, and join us next time as we keep searching for the truth behind the strange, the unexplained, and the conspiracies hiding in plain sight. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything. This is Strange Conspiracies.